Hi, and welcome to the Fabulous Cancer Podcast. Today I'll be talking to Stephanie Scoletti. Do I say that right?
Correct.
Awesome. And we're going to talk about her cancer journey and her organization. So thank you so much for joining the podcast, Stephanie.
It is certainly my pleasure. I'm just so thankful for the power of social media that connected us.
Yeah, it's really cool. Would you like to introduce yourself, who you are, and where you're from?
Sure. My name is Stephanie Scoletti, like you said. I am 34 years old and I am a young adult cancer survivor, and I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, from the United States.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Which type of cancer did you have?
I had ALL leukemia. I was diagnosed just 2 weeks before my 20th birthday. This was in 2005, and it was just a couple weeks before my junior year of college. So it really blindsided me, and I never knew what leukemia was, nor did I know how chemotherapy was administered. I mean, it was just a whole new ballgame for me when I was diagnosed with leukemia.
Oh, wow. That's actually quite interesting because I also was diagnosed with cancer in 2005.
Wow.
Yeah, like I think 3 weeks before my 11th birthday. So that's quite interesting that we have that in common, actually.
Wow, do our stories align?
Yeah. And so you say, or well, I saw that you have an organization. What made you decide to start an organization?
So when I was diagnosed, like I said, it was in 2005. I turned 20 2 weeks after, and I was in the middle of college, and I was in school actually to be a pharmacist. And as you can imagine, I mean, social media wasn't at what it is today back then. And I was treated at one of our primary hospitals here in Pittsburgh, and we have some of the best hospital systems here. Very well known, very popular, well established, and so it was comforting to know that I was going to get the best treatment of care. On the other hand, I really struggled to find others similar to my age. I was by far the youngest on the floor at the hospital when I was admitted first, and I was there for 3 weeks before being discharged to continue my intense chemotherapy regimen. But for the life of me, I couldn't find any other young adults. And I thought, I cannot be the only one this age range to be diagnosed. And so I was, like I said, I was in the hospital for the first 3 weeks initially being diagnosed. And then I spent about a year going to an outpatient facility to continue my treatment regimen. And yet I still couldn't find the young adults. I mean, I'm sitting next to people in their 50s, 60s, and up. And really, they were pleasant, don't get me wrong, but no one really could understand what I was going through. So I decided to change my major to social work, and continuing fast forward a couple years, I found a local charity here in Pittsburgh that aligned with the mission that I had personally, that I wanted to offer the support. I wanted to give back because I really was an open book, sharing my story and my experience with cancer, particularly as a young adult, and how it affected me. And so the more I shared my story, the more I just realized that this was my passion and my new purpose in life. And I just fell so in love with everything that I was doing, meaning offering the support to others who had cancer and to other family members who knew someone who had cancer. So in 2012, I started offering a monthly support group for young adults. And this was really my first effort to try and recruit other young adult cancer survivors in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania region. So I did that for 2 years, and we were able to find the young adults in our communities. And then I expanded it and started offering monthly uplifting social outings. So as you can imagine, we need a break. We can't just sit there and talk about cancer as young adults. We're going to go crazy all the while. Our peers are graduating college. They're getting the job of their dreams. They're getting married. They're having kids. They're building families. They're moving on in life. And all the while we're sitting in this treatment chair watching that happen. So I wanted to give them an opportunity to engage in a fun activity, get out of the house and do something fun, take a break from cancer, and also be able to bring their caregivers or their parents to this event each month so that they too can see that, hey, the survivor's not alone. They're not, just overly emotional and overly overwhelmed. So I expanded the program to start offering the social outings, and I also started offering them financial assistance. So I took it upon myself and I started doing some fundraising events so that I could give these survivors just $100 each year, a small stipend to help put towards their medical bills, their school loans, and the list goes on when we talk about financial assistance needs. But I did that, the three components: the support group, the social outings, and the financial assistance. I offered those three from 2014 until 2019. And in December of 2019, just a few months ago, I looked at my husband and I said, okay, I'm ready. I decided it was time. We grew the community like you wouldn't imagine. I had given over 300 financial assistance grants. We increased the amount up to $300 for each individual that qualifies. And I now have over 100 people on my email list just for support groups once a month. So we've really grown the community, and I decided that it was time to form my own nonprofit. And that in itself is Young Adult Survivors United. And so we literally launched the organization March 1st of 2020. And then 2 weeks later, we all became quarantined because of this pandemic that's happening across the world.
Oh wow, and that's, oh my God, it's just absolutely incredible that you do this, because I remember I had cancer when I was 11 years old, and then I became um, a teenager, and I was so lost, and I just
Mm-hmm.
wish that your organization like existed for me then, because I really didn't know what to do and how to continue and stuff. And what you do is incredible. That's really, really great.
Thank you. And then that's what we keep hearing is, I wish you were in existence when I had cancer, or I wish there was something like this where I lived, or there's so much more to be done. And I feel like I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing now and moving forward as we grow the organization if I didn't start my own nonprofit. So I really appreciate you acknowledging that.
Yeah, definitely. And as well, what you say is, with when I was sick, I was with children and stuff, like I think
Mm-hmm.
up to 18. And for you, I hear so many stories of people who are like either 18 or 20 or 26, and they're with like 60, 50, 70-year old. And
Yep.
it's just, oh my God, like it's, I couldn't imagine. I didn't even think about that, to be honest, because I was just like, oh yeah, like you don't have a special group of people who are like, between the age of 30 or 20 to cure with and stuff. So, wow.
Exactly. And even today, when we say young adults, that's the population that I see. And I say those who are diagnosed between 18 and 40. And of course, if there's a 42-year-old who needs our support, we're certainly going to welcome them with open arms. But we really say that because they're not kids in this program and they're not older adults. But even today, when I say young adult, I think the general population still thinks that young adults are kids, and they're not. I mean, if you were to put a 12-year-old in the, or a 15-year-old for that matter, in the same room as a 35-year-old or even a 30-year-old, their differences are just so different when it comes to where they are in their developmental stage in life and how they respond to having cancer. There are certainly some common denominators across the board when it comes to cancer and survivorship, but when you really nail down the individual differences, it is like night and day when you compare the populations.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Because I feel like I didn't really get into any organizations up until I was like, actually, up until I was like last year. So when I was like 24. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and now I have a lot of friends who are IAs, like young adults cancer survivors, or dealing with cancer. And now I'm learning so much, like from my journey and how I feel about things that happen in my life, and how I deal with things. Where I feel like, oh wow, I deal with this emotion, and now I can identify that. So it's also really nice to have that community, and to actually be with people who are dealing with the same thing, and you can see like, oh my God, wait, you're dealing with this, so I can deal with this like in another way than I thought I could deal with, or I didn't even deal with it. So yeah,
Right.
it's really cool to learn that. And what you say as well, like the age of 20 and 30 is really when you start living your life and you start everything. So it's really nice to have that community where you have a sense of like, okay, I can relate to someone. And that's so important, I think, especially as a cancer survivor or patient. it's very important to have a community like that so you can really understand everything that you're going through, I think.
Absolutely. So many times we hear that, parents just can't talk about it with the patient slash survivor. I say survivor, I don't say patient, me personally, just because you're a survivor the day you're diagnosed. So when I say cancer survivor, I mean people in treatment and post treatment. But, it's hard on family members and it's extremely hard on parents. And so you can't go to your family sometimes and really talk about what's really underlying and bothering you. And just because they can't go there emotionally. So we identify with that. But then also, so many times, friends and significant others, they just don't know what to say. They don't know how to react. And so oftentimes they don't say anything. And that's not intentional, but it's hurtful to the survivor because they need people more than ever to support them. At the same time, people just can't relate unless they are in the same shoes, walking that same path, same journey. So just to echo what you're saying, I mean, it is the community that is just so helpful for them sometimes, just to know that they can reach out and not necessarily needing someone to say anything that's going to fix the situation or fix how they're feeling, but just to be there to comfort them and be like, I understand and I get it, and I'm in the same experience as you are, so just identify that alone is so comforting to know that you have a community to fall back on.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my God, I 100% agree. Like today, I had a online chat as well with, like you say, like survivors. And they were also like, if there's like something going on with like the medical industry, like a nurse who's not agreeing with something that they're going through with like the treatment, and they need to like to talk to a friend or something. Like first, my friend is like calling a friend who never dealt with cancer, and her friend's like, well, I don't really see a problem. And then she's like, oh no, I'm calling the wrong friend. Like I need to call someone who also dealt with this, and
Right.
and that's really fun to see and to understand. It's like, oh, I can't go to my friend and ask this because he never dealt with it, which is understandable and fine. But it's really cool. I feel like even you and me already have a connection, even though we never talked before because we've been through it, and
Absolutely.
we understand each other on like a different level, which is really unbelievably incredible, I think. So it's yeah, that's really amazing.
It's such an organic, powerful connection too. And, and I don't know if you experience this, but even them, like when treatment ends, so many of them in my program, they don't look sick. I mean, from the outside, you look at them and people wonder like, why aren't you going back to work yet? And why are you still having problems when treatment's over? Like you should just snap your finger and get back to life. And it's not that way at all. So, I mean, I even experienced it myself. I was on like disability and just because you have these long lasting side effects. But what I'm trying to say is, the general population doesn't understand that just because you look a certain way doesn't mean you don't have a lot going on inside or physically and or emotionally, or, even with mental health. We can even scratch that topic if you want.
Yeah.
But
Oh my God. Yeah.
that's a whole nother area.
Absolutely. And I'm so happy you talk about that because like even for me, I had doctors who told me like, well, you're not sick anymore and you can go to college and stuff. I'm like, I'm dealing with massive fatigue. I'm like, and I was
Yes.
about to graduate from high school, and I'm like, I don't even know how to continue. Like no one taught, like I walk with a cane because I had bone cancer, and like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know how to gain self-confidence, self-esteem through any of that. Like no one taught me that. I didn't have a right psychologist who works in the field of cancer. It was just a psychologist who tries to help but says all the wrong things. So
Right.
that's really, I'm so glad you talk about that because that's really the thing. A lot of people, I think even from family members or close friends, who are saying, well, you're not sick, you're laying in bed or you're being tired, so why aren't you starting life? And there's such a whole new life you have to start, and understanding your body and
Mm-hmm.
yourself and dealing with the trauma and the side effects from chemo or treatment and everything. So yeah.
Exactly. And then now that we have this new organization through the Young Adult Survivors United organization, we're really putting in effort to raise the awareness about the whole journey from start to it's just a chronological, a chronic, I should say, disease. And so it does, there's no beginning, middle, and end. It is just, it's a marathon, if you will. It is not just a sprint of like when you when you ring that bell. And for here, like you ring the bell on your last treatment day and then they set you free, if you will. And it's not like that. It's not like they just open the gates and you're free to go back to your normal life. So we're just really putting in extra effort right now to educate the communities that it does last longer than you think. And it's not an easy process when you first are diagnosed, when you finish treatment. I mean, they're on treatment for life. So, how do you think they're going to adapt to that new lifestyle? It takes a long time.
Yeah, definitely. But it's really cool
So,
that you have everything like, how do I say, not like labeled or yeah, maybe organized is the word, where it's like this can happen and this, like financially, emotionally, mentally, like it's a
right.
whole package. And I'm so glad you talk about it and mention that like in your organization as well, because people are not aware of the things that are gonna happen or can happen to after everything, or even during. It's like I'm really glad you talk about like all the details about, look, the financial thing is very important, and then you can also deal with trauma or something. And yeah, because I was wondering, do you like what does your organization like entail more? You do like financial support, and you do like
program, or do you mean the programs of the
yes,
organization?
yes,
Sure. So the baseline model, which we found is sustainable, is offering. We're meeting their emotional, social, and financial needs by offering monthly support groups, monthly uplifting social outings, as well as the financial assistance component. And right now, we had to change it, of course, because all of us here in the city, particularly, are still quarantined. Like we have to stay home. We cannot have in-person support group meetings. We obviously cannot be in the communities engaging in social outings because of the pandemic that's happening right now with COVID-19. But we are, which is really the silver lining in all of this, is that I've started offering virtual young adult cancer support groups on a weekly basis. And that allows us to not only still see each other through Zoom, but now we're also starting to get young adult survivors who don't even live in our city, but are finding out about it on social media. And they need the support because guess what? They don't have it locally where they live. So we have people from other areas in the United States who are now joining the support group chats because they need the support, and it's really working out well. So why I mentioned that is just because, things happen out of our control, but we're adapting to that. And we're offering virtual support groups weekly. And then we're also offering monthly virtual support groups for their co-survivors, which is, it's the term is caregivers, but we like to refer to them as co-survivors because they really are. They're just going through it and in the trenches just as much as the survivor is. They're there hand and foot, trying to take on more responsibilities and trying to keep everything afloat while the survivor needs to do what they need to do, which is survive and really just cope with their own illness and emotions that come along with it. So normally that is the baseline model, but like I said, right now because of the pandemic, everything is being offered via virtual support. We do have a very simple application. And, we are a local organization here in the Western Pennsylvania region. But if anyone does qualify for the financial assistance, we do have, like I said, a 2-page application. Some information gets verified from the doctor's office, and then they can use the stipend however they need it. We didn't want to limit it to just copays or medical bills or rent and utilities. We didn't want to really limit it to one thing because I've heard needs from across the board, whether it be, paying for childcare or buying groceries or putting gas in their tanks to get to and from treatment. So we really have been flexible with what they can use that stipend for. But we will, of course, be expanding the programs as time moves on. Because like I said, we've been operating for a month and a half now, going on 2 months. So we are still considered a new nonprofit, but we are going to be incorporating the educational piece as well. And we're really going to work hard to put together and host an East Coast, along the East Coast of the United States, offer a young adult cancer conference because it's just lacking in our states and in our whole area. So there's a lot to be done, but we really want to incorporate the educational piece and continue offering wellness support, if you will, bringing in nutrition components and exercise components and, just meditation and mindfulness. There's just so much more to add to this component because they need it. And so we really want to make sure that we on our side of the end of things are just being very cognizant and very creative when it comes to how we can always be at the forefront of meeting their needs, because we know the baseline model, like I said, the emotional, social, and financial piece is always going to be necessary, but we know there's always going to be growth opportunities from that, which is exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for sharing that. And also, I'm so happy you do like a Zoom meeting every week, because I do it as well with Dutch young adults. And
wonderful.
It is like, I learned so much, and I thought I kind of knew everything from my journey. But like every week I learn something new. So it's so powerful. Like for me, I'm working on trauma therapy right now with everything.
Wow.
Yeah, regarding like life after cancer and stuff. And today I was like, I don't know if it's, if I'm gonna be too tired for it, or if I want to talk about cancer for 2 hours and stuff. But we talk about so much, and every day or every week I learn so much from other people and myself. So it's really, it's really incredible to get involved with that. So I'm really happy you do that as well. That's really amazing.
Absolutely. And normally I only offer monthly support groups. So the fact that we're offering these weekly, and I offer 2 a week, I'm offering one in the evening and one during the day. And I'm getting just as many people. So it tells you that they need extra support right now, which I'm sure you can identify with, because this COVID-19 pandemic, it really has triggered their PTSD and reminds them of when they were diagnosed and when they had to give up all that control, and when they had to be forced to stay at home and be safe and wear the masks because their immune systems were suppressed. It's just, there's so many identifiable factors when you compare the two.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
It's just been an incredible journey.
Definitely. And I can see that as well with my friends who are like, now the whole world sees, that I'm dealing with this, or how I dealt with this. And I also have friends from America who dealt with cancer, and they're like, they survived cancer last year, and they're like, oh, now I want to live my life, and now we have to stay at home again. So I can relate to that with what other people are saying as well, dealing with that, because it's also like you're trying to like you're trying to get your mental health up and want to go outside, and the weather is nice, and now that all of this is going on. So it's it's definitely hard for people, what I've seen as well.
Absolutely. I'm glad we're not the only ones here in the United States dealing with that. No. I'm just a global impact, if you will.
Definitely. Like everyone can't wait to like go outside again, and we're like, oh, we're gonna meet up and stuff soon, after this. So everyone's really excited.
Exactly. Now we're appreciating the power of a hug.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the organization is geared. Do you have like a age range? Is that a word? I think.
The age range that we say, like I said, if you're diagnosed between the ages of 18 and 40, of course, the co-survivors, the caregivers, they can be anyone taking care of a young adult, whether that's a spouse, significant other, a sibling, a parent. That the age doesn't really matter, but those who qualify for the programs, who qualify for the financial assistance, have to be diagnosed between the ages of 18 and 40, but it does not matter what type of cancer they had.
Okay, perfect. And where can people join the organization?
We have a website that's www.YASurvivors.org. Anyone can find information about that. My email address is all over the website. I am the president and founder, so my cell phone number is on there. My email address is on there. We're also very present on social media, so we can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you just search Young Adult Survivors United, you'll find us there. But those are the main and easiest ways to find us and find out about the programs that we're running.
Awesome. And I will also put all your contact information and social media and website in the description, so people can reach out to you as well that way.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining and talking to me about this. It's really inspiring and helpful as well. It's really incredible to see like now I'm learning so much about my cancer journey and how things went in my life, and see how it actually is what, which is, what you're doing actually. So it's yeah, thank you so much for yeah.
Oh my, it's my pleasure. I'm so glad we connect on social media, and all of us here in Pittsburgh will definitely follow you in the podcast. And if there's anything I can do for you, for your podcast, whether it's connecting you with anyone else, or anyone out there needing the support, if even if I always say this, ending a conversation is, even if someone doesn't qualify for what I'm doing, if they just have questions about cancer in itself, or resources for that matter, definitely reach out, because between me, you, and the world, there's always someone that can help. So
Mm.
if I can't offer it, I'll certainly take the time to connect them to the resources that will, because that's what this is all about. It's just sticking in there together and helping each other out. So I just want to thank you first and foremost for the opportunity to have this conversation and to raise the awareness, because it's people like you who help us do that and make the difference at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, and that's
My
incredible.
pleasure.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next podcast episode. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bye bye.